I think I said in my my post-match presser, if you like, on the field, it felt like deja vu a little bit. 2 goals early in the game and a big hole to dig ourselves out of. Nowhere near as, of course, many efforts at goal, but you're just not going to get that against good teams. However, a far more positive and aggressive display, almost from the middle part of the first half on. And to be honest, that's going to prove far too difficult ongoing to keep dragging ourselves out of. So I'm pleased we got a point and we haven't been beaten. I'm frustrated that we've conceded 2 goals, and I'm very frustrated that we haven't won one of these 2 first home games.
Thank you, Coach. We will now open the floor for questions. A reminder, please alert me through the chat if you have questions for Coach, and we will kick it off with a question from Tim Sullivan with For Club and Country.
Great. This week and last week, do you see something in common between the slow starts that you guys had?
I thought last week, we looked off the pace, sharpness, even, it can be more so about the sort of mental place that you're in. And I just don't think the guys had seen a game that quick for some time. This week was slightly different. We had a good week's work. I'm certain that the guys would have taken an awful lot out of last week's game. And there was no lack of focus in this one. I just thought there was a lack of quality. We were dispossessed of the ball too easily. There were too many cheap giveaways, and it destabilises the group. And if you look at the first goal and the way that it comes about, you have to add into the equation as well. It's an incredibly good finish. The ball is stuck between his feet. Should we get more pressure on the ball? There's 2 defenders there. I say yes, but ultimately you have to give the player a big pat on the back for the finish. And the second goal, it gets a deflection, but it really and truly, we should have been in a far better position than we were when that second goal went in. At the moment, it's very, very frustrating. It will take probably a couple more days for me to evaluate the game again when I look at it. But there are lots and lots of positives to come out of our play at the moment. However, to concede 2 goals in the 2 opening games at home is something that we have to consider very heavily. And moving forward, we have to improve.
Ray Hills with the Tennessean.
Yeah, Gary, as far as your subs were concerned, when you went and took off Anibal, was that just something to give Brian a chance to give a surge to the midfield? Or was that something that was going on with Anibal, whether it was an injury or not? And then also with Handwalla, what did you see from him, and why did you think to want to take him off and put Will on for the second half?
Well, look, let me preface what I'm going to say with the fact that we have 5 subs. Last week, you questioned, not just you, but people questioned me why I didn't bring more subs on. I brought 2 on last week, and this week I felt we needed more legs. Handwalla was slightly different. I just felt we needed a different approach to that right-hand side. But with Anibal, put a hell of a lot into the game. And the big thing I'm looking at as well as we push to try and get a winner is that Anibal's on the booking. It only takes one moment that swings the game, and we have a very, very capable individual in Brian and alongside me. Could it have been Dax? I think so. Both those midfield players put a hell of a lot into the game. But at that particular moment, the fact that he'd been booked made a big difference. And, in the end, as you saw, I thought Dax had run himself into the ground. So, don't look into this too much. I don't have any, altered issues with these guys. It was just the fact that they put a lot into the game, and we needed to probably, pick it up a little bit more.
Pedro Duarte with the Stereo Nashville.
Yes, good afternoon, Coach Gary. My question is to you to see if you can describe what it's like to be at halftime for these initial two games as a member of the Nashville Soccer Club. What is it that you tell your players at halftime that change their mentality? You know, because we have seen two different games with two different teams in two different halves.
First and foremost, this really isn't about me. It's about the team, and it's just reminders. We had a game plan. We all worked hard throughout the week. The players were terrific in their preparations, and in the early exchanges, we didn't execute well enough. As I said, we gave the ball away too many times, too cheaply. I think the big difference in the second period, number one, you get a bit of a break to just mentally, refocus and think about what's gone on, what was good, what we need to improve. And there were just one or two areas, of course, that may have helped us in that second period. But the bottom line is, I bet if we look back at the chances created, there were as many chances in the first half that we could have and should have scored as there were in the second half. The fact is, we converted two of them. So, this isn't just about the way we start and the goals conceded. We've created more clear goal scoring chances in these first two games than we have, in probably 8 or 10 games last year when we came into the league. So, I want to look at this in a very positive light. There wasn't too much focus or comment on the 32 efforts at goal that we had last week. It was, obviously more about Cincinnati. I'd like to be saying that the team looks very, very bright going forward. We look far more positive and connected as we're trying to create. What we have to make sure is that, we have the right structure to find our first clean sheet, which will give us a big boost, I'm sure.
Steve Cavendish with Nashville SC.
Thanks, Gary. You lost a whole passel of preseason games. You haven't been sharp defensively early these first two games at home. At what point do you catch up with the lack of preseason here with games? Is it going to take 3-4 games? Is this something that you can get out of your system pretty quickly? What's the timeline on that sharpness?
Oh, look, there's the preseason we had is unlike any other I've ever encountered. I'm not saying we were the only team. I'm sure there were plenty of others that had their preseason disrupted. What I can tell you is this: for any team going into the season, we plan and organise 5, 6, 7 preseason games for a reason. And we ended up with 2 competitive games. Now, to your point, that's going to take a little bit of time to get out of our system. And maybe, I don't want it to be an excuse, but maybe that's part of the reason we've conceded 4 goals in 2 games. Some of the characteristics in the group just don't look the same as they did last year in the early stages. What I would say is it hasn't affected our attacking play. In fact, we look better. Now, I'm not going to complain about the defending because of pre-season and, look at it in a completely different light with our attacking. So in answer to your question, it may take us 4 or 5 games. I mean, most teams look at the season after 4 or 5 games and go, okay, what do we look like? What is our form like? At the moment, there's not a huge amount of form guide. Most teams are very much the same. So, we've got work like all other teams to keep focusing on, keep improving. My only disappointment with the preseason is that we started off with 4 home games, and I'm just not sure we were in the most perfect position to take advantage of that. But it is what it is, and we're going with it.
Ben Wright with Broadway Sports.
Yeah, Gary, we talked at times last season just about how you guys were creating chances and the finishing wasn't necessarily there. With the amount of chances you're creating now, are you encouraged, and do you feel like eventually the finishing is going to catch up? And then similarly, just can you talk a little bit about Jonder and his performance and his 2 goals to start the season?
Yeah, firstly, I'm ecstatic that we're creating as many chances as we are. It's lovely to see a much better connection and cohesive nature about our attacks. Randall and Hany look bright and purposeful, which is terrific. They're a catalyst for a lot of things that are going on. Both of our fullbacks, certainly last weekend, both fullbacks looked far more aggressive than they did this. But this team play a very different way, so it wasn't quite as easy for them to get on top of their game creatively. I think over time, you get what you deserve. And we deserve more than we're picking up at the moment. But the circumstances of any game are huge. Gives teams a lift when they score, gives them something to protect when they're in front. Away from home, it's certainly a factor that plays into any result if you go 2-0 up. So it's the other side of our game we need to look at and work a little bit harder at. Would never ever question the endeavour and the energies out of the group, but that's never ever been an issue, and I'll keep reinforcing that. In fact, I think we're in a great physical place. And I'm delighted for Yonder, 2 goals. I still don't think he's fully fit. He's had an injury in pre-season and he's still working his way back to full health. So 2 goals in 2 games. If he's not at full health, then I would imagine it's got to be a huge plus for him and for the team. When he is in his sharpest condition, I think he'll cause defenders a serious problem.
Ben Dudley with MLS Now podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. You answered my question that I was going to ask about Jonder and his fitness. But this is 2 games that he scored and 2 games that he's been subbed off. Obviously, no player wants to get subbed off, but is this just a chance for him to get up to 100%, or is this wanting to get CJ on late with his pace?
When you've got competition, there's always that thought in your mind, how do we improve this? And we have a lot of competition. CJ's a terrific pro and a good player. Yonder keeps scoring, he'll play the most minutes because, lots of forwards are about confidence and they're about, being in that right mental and focused state. Yonder isn't fully fit at the moment. So I'm not gonna leave him out there for numerous reasons. The first one is the longer I leave him, the more chance there is of injury. And the second one is when he comes off the gas, we're not getting the same effect up there. And if I've got a good option, then you would expect me to use that. So it wouldn't matter whether it was Yonder, CJ, Dominic, Daniel Rios, it doesn't matter. With forwards, they know they have to be sharp, they have to be on the ball. They are the most interchange players in any team for that reason, because people are looking for a spark and something to inspire the team. So, again, I'd rather you not look into it too deeply. It's a case of trying to keep the team on the right path.
2 final questions for Tim Sullivan and Ben Wright.
Gary, you talk a lot about how it takes the connections and appreciation offensively to build over the course of the early stages of a season. Have you ever had a season like this where that seems to be the part that's clicking sooner and the defense still has work to do, or is this kind of new to you? And how do you kind of continue to work something that maybe you haven't had to do as frequently in terms of how your season plays out?
I think the thing to always look at is, how have the goals come about? And do you feel as though there's a fundamental flaw in the group that ongoing is going to cause us an issue? Last week, as I've already said, I felt was slightly different to what happened this week. This week, we fell foul of some pressure that was built from our own inefficiencies, and a fantastic goal. If we score that at the other end, you know, I'm jumping around like a demented fool on the touchline. It's a terrific goal. And the second goal, whilst the guy catches it well, is it struck any better than Randall's late on? But it takes a deflection. So there's a bit of fortune in there. Now, in between, are there flaws in our game? Are we conceding too many chances? I've got to say, their conversion rate was pretty good at one point. They'd had 4 shots at goal and scored twice. I mean, I think any team would be delighted with that. So I don't see too many major issues with the group. But I think I may have said to everyone that wanted to ask, when we were questioned about our defensive attributes and prowess and so on, getting the balance right is what every team's after. You go too far one way, you become porous and easily concede goals. You go too far the other way, you become a group that sits in and is comfortable just absorbing pressure. We're finding our way to be that balance. Last year, certainly in the early stages, we were far too committed to not concede. This year, maybe there's a point that we're too committed to score. But I think more so when you see where the goals, 3 goals scored, I think in the opening 15 minutes of 2 games. So, you know, it'll be that area of the game that I'm looking at quite closely.
And finally, Ben Wright.
Yeah, Gary, 2 points from 2 home games to start the season. And obviously, I know you've placed an emphasis on getting points at home. Do you feel like this is a case where maybe this homestand just came a little bit early, given all that happened in preseason? And what needs to change over the next couple of games to take maximum points here?
Look, the circumstances already spoken about. I don't think they've helped anyone. And the fact that we are at home maybe evens the playing field a little bit. I don't know Montreal's or Cincinnati's circumstances, so we're just speculating. I want to win every home game. I want the fans to be entertained. I want to be in a position where we're challenging for the playoffs and for silverware. And there's a short-term and long-term aim to everything we do. Am I disappointed that we haven't won one of these 2 games? Absolutely, 100%. You know, in my mind, we should be getting 4 out of 6 points out of these 2 games. But I honestly didn't cater for our pre-season. And of course, I didn't cater for conceding 4 goals. So, you know, we work to improve. We want to maintain all the good things that we're about. And we have to negate and cut out some of the more difficult things. But the end of the season will determine what and how we went about our business. Right now, it's just speculation. You know, are we a playoff team? Are we in good form? That'll depend on where Cincinnati and Montreal are. Based on last week, Montreal are on a good run. But what we know is over time, you settle into a rhythm, you settle into your direction. I don't think we're too far off of where we need to be, but are we frustrated? You bet your bottom dollar we are.
Yeah, I think the start of the game was not how we wanted to start a game, but we showed good character. And yeah, we have to watch the video Monday and look what we have to do better, because it's now the 2nd time in a row that we start not like we wanted. So, but yeah, like I said, we showed character, and the end, it's okay with the point, but we need to do better next week.
Claudio Villalobos. Claudio?
I'm sorry, Hany. from your own view, I mean, obviously different from the coach because he's outside. As a player, how frustrated it is to see you guys creating so many opportunities in a couple of games and not being able to come away with a clear victory on both games for sure.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, but of course it's part of our game, and we need to watch the video. We need to look what we can do better, and yeah, the good thing is we create the chances, and that's a good part of it. But of course, yeah, we need to score one more goal than the opponent, that we get the 3 points.
Tim Sullivan with For Black and Country.
Hany, on your goal, what did you see with that tiny little window to kind of shoot into, and how did you I guess guide it exactly where you wanted it to go?
Yeah, of course, I just had like couple second time, but yeah, the near post was open, and yeah, I scored with my left foot, and I'm happy to help the team. But of course, we are all disappointed that we lost today 2 points.
Ben Dudley with MLS Now podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Hany. This game, at least from what I've watched and the stats I've seen, seemed much better for you. The first half seemed like a little slow start. Was there something that that Montreal was doing that was kind of catching you off balance?
No, we knew that after the victory last week against Toronto, they would come with a lot of energy. But we were prepared. The coach told us everything, and we had a good training week. And I don't have the answer for why we started so bad. But yeah, we need to watch a video, and we need to do better next week.
Ben Wright with Broadway Sports.
Yeah, Hany, obviously last year we just talked a lot about the issues to create and score chances. And it seems like you guys have started much better this season. Can you talk a little bit about what's changed between this year and last year in the attacking third?
I mean, obviously last year we were a new team. We don't know each other that well last year. So this year, the attacking player or most of the starting 11 is the same like last year. So we know each other much better, and it helps, of course, us to create more chances, to know our players better, to know the running ways, and yeah, I think that's really good this year. Last week we created a lot of chances as well, so we just need to score one more goal.
Drake Hills with the Tennessean.
Hany, before the second half began, I saw you talking to Alistair, it seems, and trying to encourage him or even kind of give him some tips on what he was doing in his position. Going up against Montreal, what was it like against the 3-5-2 and how they were playing? What was your assessment of what was troubling you guys, and how did you adjust?
Yeah, I mean, 3-5-2 is very compact in the middle. There's not much space through the middle. And of course, I like to play through the middle because I'm there and I want to have the ball. But yeah, we saw that the center is close. So I told him that he needs to ask for the ball more, to stay lower and get the ball, because on the side we have a 2v1. So yeah, to create it, like the first goal we created from the side, and there's the space. So that's what we talked about in the halftime. And yeah, that's what we have to do against a 3-5-2.
Obviously a really, really proud moment for myself. You often hear stories. Every player has their own story to get where they are today and debut. And mine was a long journey, like many guys, and it finally came. So I'm really proud of myself, and obviously happy for me and my family and everyone that supported me until now.
Thank you. How have you been preparing up until this point to make it happen?
Yeah, I think the team has done a really, really good job this preseason preparing. And obviously today, we aren't satisfied, obviously, with the way that we started, but the character that we had to come into the second half and tie it up is awesome. And I think we prepared all week long, and I prepared all week long to contribute in any way that I could. And if my name was called, then I was going to be ready. So,
Tim Sullivan with For Club and Country with a question for you.
Look, obviously you didn't play in front of a full stadium today, but I doubt you played in front of 12,000 people very often at Creighton or Charlotte Independence. What was it like to have the opportunity to kind of feel that fan support behind you and play in front of presumably the biggest crowd you've ever played in front of?
Yeah, great question. It's pretty surreal. It's hard to put it into words. As a kid, obviously watching on TV and especially in our group, going onto the field today, especially with the likes of Dax and Walker and some of the guys that we have on our team, it's an honor, it's a privilege, and I'm pretty proud of myself to contribute in any way possible.
Claudio Villalobos with the next question.
Look, how is it? How do you feel personally after each practice, seeing the team playing well, because the team is playing well, in terms of the opportunities you have or you might have for more minutes in the coming games?
Yeah, I think for me in my position currently in the team, it's just contributing in any way possible, whether that's coming in at stoppage time, whether that's coming in earlier in the game. My responsibility is to be ready at all times to be able to come in and see what's going on in the game and then contribute and make a difference when I get a chance and help my teammates out there, because that's the most important thing, to help us get a result and move forward.
Ben Wright.
Yeah, Luke, first of all, just congrats on your MLS debut. We've heard you mentioned in preseason a couple of times by both Gary Smith and Mike Jacobs, and then obviously being involved in both the squads so far this season and coming off the bench today. Can you just talk a little bit about this preseason and the offseason and kind of what changed for you and how you worked your way into the team after being on loan last year?
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate the question. I think for me, coming back after my loan spell in Charlotte, I think I got some great experience there, a fantastic opportunity to get my first professional games under me there. And then after that, it just made me even more hungry in the off season. So I probably took, 14 days in the off season, and then I really, put my head down and started to work again towards this preseason. So, I mean, a lot of the guys were working hard in the off season as well as myself. So credit to all of them as well. But I think we, as a group, were in really, really early and getting ready for the season. So I think I put my best foot forward, and so did the group back in, January and February. We started to come back early and prepare.